Well, here we are. We have completed the en route portion of our instrument flight. We have flown the star, which we've covered in a previous video, and that star has connected us to the IAP, or the Instrument Approach Procedure. Yes, folks, you are back at the Epic Flight Academy. This is our instrument rating course. And my name is Mike Thompson. Now, remember, to be successful in this instrument rating course, it's not just about watching these videos, and boy, are we glad you're here watching these videos. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. But there are 3 keys to your success. Number 1, you must be in Epic's online course and studying this course in the online setting with all of the related supporting materials. Number 2, watch these videos. Number 3, be sure to review all of this with your flight instructor. And this is our introduction to the IAP, or the Instrument Approach Procedure. Now, think about it for a second. In any approach to the airport, whether it's visual approach, an instrument approach, whether it's a published instrument approach procedure, we're operating in 3-dimensional space, and there's going to be 3 key requirements. The first one is the approach angle or glide slope to that runway. The second dimension is the lateral dimension side to side, seeing if I can get this aircraft straight down the center line of that runway. And then the third dimension is the speed at which I'm flying toward the runway. So all 3 of these dimensions will come into play in any instrument approach procedure. Now, to get us started, I want to introduce you to a couple of the basics. First of all, what is an instrument approach? Well, according to the Pilot Controller Glossary, hey Mike, there is such a glossary somewhere? Where is this glossary that you speak of? This glossary is in the appendix of the AIM, the Aeronautical Information Manual. And in that glossary, it tells me the instrument approach is a series of predetermined maneuvers for the orderly transfer of an aircraft under instrument flight conditions from the beginning of the initial approach to a landing, or to a point from which a landing may be made visually. Now, if you take a look at our first graphic here, we're depicting this small Cessna descending from the en route environment to the terminal environment. And the aircraft is going to approach at a minimum altitude, or reach this minimum altitude and make a decision. Now, this is important because it helps us define the 2 kinds of minimum altitudes in IAPs, Instrument Approach Procedures. The one being used depends upon the type of approach being conducted. The first one to discuss is the decision altitude, or decision height. Now, take a look at our aircraft. We are in our 3-dimensional space, we are on center line, and we are descending down this glide path at a specified airspeed. Those are my basics. Now, I have reached this predetermined decision altitude or decision height, and one of 2 things is going to happen. And you can see that here. In green, I'm going to make the decision to descend for landing, or in red, I am going to execute what we call the missed approach procedure. So the next logical question is, well, what is the difference between the DA decision altitude and the DH decision height? Well, as you might guess, they are very, very similar. The difference is simply this. Decision altitude is displayed on a barometric altimeter, and the DA will therefore be in MSL. The decision height is determined by use of a radio altimeter and is therefore in AGL. Now, most light general aviation aircraft do not have radio altimeters and therefore don't use DH. If you take a look at this excerpt from an instrument approach procedure, you can see, for example, on the left under category, it says straight into ILS 28 right. And then in this box here, it says RA163, DA163. That is a decision height on a radio altimeter. That's RA. And the DA is the decision altitude in MSL. And notice it is also 163 feet. Now, what about that second category? Well, this second category we talk about as MDAs, Mike Delta Alpha. That is minimum descent altitude. These are non-precision approach procedures where the aircraft descends to a minimum altitude and continues inbound toward the airport of intended landing. And again, does one of two things. Either identifies the runway and in green descends for landing, or in red cannot identify its runway of intended landing and again executes what we call the missed approach procedure. Well, folks, that just about wraps up the basic introduction to instrument approach procedures. And you're going to see that everything we talk about in subsequent videos is going to be based upon these fundamental basics. So please join us next time.